Welcome to the Rumbidzai show. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for watching. If you're watching via YouTube, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And if you're on Facebook, please share, like, and comment on this video. Today, I am so happy to welcome Coach Dumi Senda onto the show. I'm just going to describe him. He is a rags to impact coach, and he went from the sweeping factory floors to Oxford University, and as a master's graduate and global equity, diversity and inclusion expert. Wow, that's a mouthful. So welcome, Dumi.
Thank you
so much for coming.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. It's such an honor. Thank you.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. And it's just amazing to see how, you've said that you use your story, you use your life experiences to help others to get unstuck and to come out of situations that they've been in and to connect with their greatness. That's really powerful.
Thank you.
And amazing. So if you could perhaps just tell us a little bit about your early life experiences,
Sure.
Where you're from, so we get to know a little bit more about Dumi.
Fantastic. Proud Zimbabwean. Grew up in Zimbabwe. Actually, my formative years, my earlier years, I lived a few years in Berengwa with my gogo grandma and Kulu granddad. So those were really important years for me because it's only afterwards when you look back, but that's where I realized that, in fact, a lot of my kind of philosophical thinking, a lot of my, inclination to be pro, I guess, inclusion, to be pro equality, to be pro Ubuntu actually comes from there, because this is where, some of the kind of traditional practices that you grow up around, like Nimbe, when neighbors are helping neighbors, for, let's say a neighbor does not have cattle to till their land.
Yes.
Other neighbors who've got cattle come and help to till their land, or the younger people come and help to to work the fields for older people. So there was always this kind of culture of helping one another, culture of giving back to others is part of society. So those were very important years in my life. And then I guess the rest of the years, I think after grade 5, 6, I was in Harare. Studied at a primary school called Wharton Park.
Wharton Park
Primary School in Waterfalls. And then went to Lord Marvin High School.
All right.
Again, did a stint at Lord Marvin, I think up until Form 2, and then after that I had to leave. I'll get into the reasons why I had to leave, Lord Marvin to go to a boarding school in, it's called Holy Cross. It's an area called Holy Cross near Fairfield, towards Mashingo Road. Yeah. So I did a couple of years boarding school. And after that, I was back in Harare to do A-levels at Cranbourne Boys High.
Okay. Also, you had quite a lot of movement.
Quite a lot of movement. And I think part of that is because of, in a sense, of my childhood. So I think there were, some levels of perhaps instability in some sense.
Okay.
Because my mom and dad, went their separate ways when I was very young. I think 7 months old, and and so my dad was, a soldier in the army, and his mindset was, my son, particularly a son, he's not going to be raised by another man in case my mom, but later on my mom got remarried into a different. She got her own family and the husband. So so that's when my dad took me, and I was raised by my grandmother for a while.
So was that your paternal grandmother where you went?
My paternal grandmother. Yes, yeah. So my paternal grandmother, Gogumankomo, God bless her soul, she passed on just a few years, 3 years ago, and she was 94. So very strong woman, very wise woman. She someone who was very, I think, who added a lot of value to me. Who, in some sense, I think I had a very special place in her heart too. I just seem to be one of those grandchildren that she really, really, liked to keep close, and so she was a very important part of my life.
That's great, and that's amazing, the influence that key figures have, which marks you for life in terms of, even in some of your writing. We've got some books here that you've written. You talk about some of that backstory as well in some of your poems, which is really interesting. And then from that young Dumi who finished at Craneborn. How did you then get to come here? How did you get to come to the United Kingdom?
So I think it's probably key to mention that, like when I was living in Harare with my dad, I was living with his stepmother at that time. In some sense, I think, part of what has shaped me is, in a sense, I was almost like an outside child, as I like to call it, because I was even writing a book called Outside Child, but then I kind of shook that off, and I thought, no. Even those circumstances may hold you as an outsider, but actually, so life and the universe, you are always an insider. There's always, there's always love. There's always a lot that you can gain. That you can view yourself as being part of. So living with this stepmother wasn't the kindest of people, and so that was really challenging. But in some ways, that experience is what led me to being a poet. So I would literally go and hide in the toilet with a piece of paper, writing. And for me, it was trying to create an escape from this reality where sometimes you'd go to bed without eating, and the rest of the other kids have had dinner.
Wow.
Or any day you could be accused of this or the other, and you could wind up being beaten up. So growing up around such, in a sense, social injustice sensitized me to the need for social justice, which is why I'm so passionate about equality, diversity, and inclusion. But also thankful that because of those experiences, I was able to find my own voice through poetry, through storytelling, and in a sense that has shaped who I am and how I contribute to society today.
Wow.
But then
that's powerful. I'm just going to stop you because that's so profound, and I think so many people will resonate with that, of being the outside child. So don't put that book away forever, because I think that will be a bestseller, because so many people will resonate with that. But in that adversity, that exclusion is where you are now an diversity and inclusion expert. So how you took the bad things and the adversity to bring something so good to it. I think that's really encouraging and really profound to hear. So that's amazing. So I'll leave you to carry on.
And, and it was almost like, outsider on my dad's side, outside on my mom's side too, because she was also married, and I was a stepchild, and I was a stepchild on both sides. But all that I do not. One thing that I've learned over the years with life is that we are never victims unless we internalize the victimization itself. So, you might go through situations that are challenging, but that doesn't make you a victim. What makes you a victim is your mindset itself. So circumstances will happen to you, life happens, and it will happen to all of us in different ways, in different shapes. And I'm still very thankful for my childhood, both to my mom and my dad, because they both imparted really important, values in me, and both contributed to who I am today. And even those people who may not have always been, welcoming to me or viewing me as a child that they could embrace, still that also taught me something useful about life. But nonetheless, in any case.
And how did you come from being that little boy in the toilet? Because there might be someone who's listening who's had similar experiences to yours. And you said you're only a victim if you allow yourself to be, because it's a mindset thing. What was your journey, perhaps, just for you to touch on that, of how you came from that little boy in the toilet to what process did you go through?
I think I'm thankful for some of the icons we've had in our society. So people like, Chundura Moyo, Marechera, all these people were my mentors without me realizing that. I was from a very young age someone who was really drawn to literature. I enjoyed reading stories, Shona novels. I enjoyed reading English novels. Having grown up in Harare, I didn't quite read Ndebele novels, or even though I can speak, my Ndebele is not as strong as my Shona, but it's still good enough. But I guess I was immersed in all that, the brilliance of these people. That in a sense showed me how one can actually create an alternative reality to the one that is imposed on you. So through words, through thinking, and through, you can actually create an alternative reality. And so in growing up, I wanted, I became a dreamer in some sense, because, I dreamt of being, that an individual that's going to contribute to a world where, people can be more included. And I saw myself as probably going to be part of that journey. So
Wow.
yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Great.
So, I guess skipping a few years,
Yes.
getting to A level, it was literally just before taking my A levels, and when my dad passed away, and so that was a turning moment in my life, because then, in a sense, I spent a bit of a stint living with my uncle, who's actually in politics, and many people do not quite associate, because he uses Moyo and I use Senda, so many people do not know the connection, but he's actually my dad's older brother, and same mother, same father.
Okay.
My dad's older brother, Dr. Nkosana Moyo.
Nkosana Moyo. Oh,
so
right.
many people do not know that relationship. But so I lived with him for, he took me in after, my dad had passed away. I lived with him for a little bit. But then, now it became about what next. And so that's how I then came to the UK, to be with my aunt a little bit. And during that time, my aunt on my mom's side.
Okay.
During that time, as you may well know, around that time, a lot of Zimbabweans were coming here. It might be different for you. I don't know how your journey was, but a lot of Zimbabweans were coming here. They would come to do nursing training.
Yes.
Because it was the easiest route to get here.
I did do nursing, yes.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
wow,
we all
amazing.
did.
Amazing. There you go. So you can relate, right?
I can relate.
And you became a whole lawyer after that. Right? So I came through that same route.
Yeah.
And I was at the University of Hertfordshire.
Yes.
Did the nursing diploma. It was a 3-year diploma.
Yeah.
But as you may well know, in Zimbabwe, the mindset, certainly for me anyway, I'd never seen nursing as a career that I could actually, I never thought I could ever do something like that. And it was a very gendered view of that career.
Yes.
Of course now I view it differently.
Yeah.
But I think there's something more fundamental there, which is, it doesn't matter what career it is, whether it's law or, or working in finance or nursing, whatever it is. If you're doing something that is not quite aligned with your own dreams and your own vision of yourself, you're not going to do well.
Yeah.
But I think I was less wise than perhaps people like yourself who understood that, yes, this is a platform and you're going to use that and then to get into what you wanted to do.
Yes.
But what I did is, 2 years into it, just a year shy of finishing the program, I quit.
Oh.
And I quit without a plan of actually what was I going to do next. Kept withdrawing that bursary money from the government, and started receiving those letters that say, hey, if you don't pay us our money back,
it's quite funny to me. I also did nursing, but I didn't even last 2 years.
Oh, really?
I last 6 months.
So I did a bit better.
So you did even better than me.
That's funny. Yeah. So, but because I didn't have a plan and I hadn't really thought this through, I like to call that, jumping from the frying pan to the fire. Yeah. So I wound up now, in menial labor, stacking shelves in factories, sweeping factory floors. And I was stuck in that life for a good 10 years,
Wow.
Several attempts to escape it. And one significant attempt was, I registered for a course called ODP, Operating Department Practitioner, where you work in operating theaters and assisting anesthetists. And at this point, I guess I'd learned my lesson about quitting things and not seeing things through. And I said, okay, fine. Even if it's not something that you want to do, work hard, do what you have to do until you can get to a point where you can do what you want to do, right? But in a sense, the rug was pulled from under my feet because, just right at, I think 6 months into completing the 2-year diploma, and going for my final assessment at Addenbrooke's Hospital, the person who was supposed to assess me, to my face said, I don't like you. And, if I were you, I just would not bother, and I think that was my first experience of racism, direct racism, but as well as institutional racism, because when I then tried to get that addressed by the college, I always have to explain when I say college, it's not because people assume it's Cambridge University College, as in the Cambridge University. It wasn't. It's this was a college in Fulbourn.
Okay.
So it's not part of Cambridge University. So that's why I was doing the studies.
The ODP.
The ODP training, yes. And the college initially appeared to be supportive and in fact to be appalled by what had happened. And they said, they would support me to get a different assessor. But when it came to it, I think they went with the easy route for them because seeing through that support would have meant kind of ruffling feathers. It was easier for them to support their colleagues than to support a student. And by the way, at the time I was the only black student in that program. There were a lot of black people in nursing, but there were not a lot of black people in ODP practice.
Yeah.
It tended to be very white predominantly. And so in a sense, I think the college was also, they insisted, they said, well, you have to go with the assessment through the same individual, or else if you don't, then we're going to fail you, and then you forfeit, and then you have to start at the beginning. It's up to you, right? Which is clearly not fair, because they said other students, their argument was that other students on the course have been assessed fairly by this person. But they are going with the experiences of the majority white to try to understand the experience of a minority black and the only black person on the course, right? And so in the end, I tried to actually request for a transfer to a different campus that's in Chelmsford, which was a sister campus to that. And I think in a sense, they said, okay, we would support that, but the process again was frustrated, because I think for them, allowing that to happen would have meant that they are admitting to having failed to support me. And in those days, actually, I don't know whether if you still remember, in those days you relied on the institution to send you for your visa renewal, right? You didn't send it to yourself, like what happens these days. So they also delayed sending my visa renewal, and I discovered literally 5 days. I was sent a letter from the Home Office that said you're overdue your stay by 5 days. You are now an illegal immigrant and you need to leave the country in 14 days.
Wow.
And as you know, that actually led, in some ways, long story short, led me to you. To me. The great work that you do to support people who are fighting.
Position,
to get their stay and all these things. So you know that story. You helped me to put together the documentation and the whole process of fighting that. And that was successful. So in a sense, that was my, uncoupling and allowing me to now, be myself and live my life and move away from fear, a life of fear where I would not even open the door just in case on the other side there's the Home Office. And by the way, that's the time I became a father to my son, who's now 13 years old.
So you had all that happening, your papers expired. You had a little baby. When I met you, I think that was about 13 years ago. You had a little baby. But you said that was your release from fear. And that allowed you to become yourself.
That's right.
And from that stage, when you now got your papers to now, it's phenomenal what you've done in the last in that time span. And you've managed to appear before. I know you've shared stages with the King of Lesotho, with the President of Zambia, FTSE 100 company chief executives. So from there, from that little boy in Mberengwa
to that, I mean, just pre-COVID, I was invited to the Prime Minister's residency,
10 Downing Street.
10 Downing Street.
Wow.
So, I mean,
And what steps did you take then from there, to get to there, and perhaps even just to encourage other people who are listening that it is possible, and how did you do it?
One, I think, and this is an awareness that I developed later. So it's not like, as I was going through these things, that days, I was very wise and aware and get all the answers, and I'm like, I'm going to sort my life out. That's not really the case. And so in a sense, what hopefully that should say to people, it's okay to feel the way you're feeling while you're going through what you're going through. This is life. Life will throw what it throws at us. We don't choose our circumstances. We don't choose what happens to us. But the awareness that I later developed is that actually we're not as powerless as we assume. So the first thing for me, I think that was a turning point, was understanding that, my background, just because I'm not from a wealthy family that could afford, to pay for a degree that I wanted to do, maybe in the UK. At the time I was thinking maybe lawyer or dentist, I wasn't quite aware what area I wanted to work, but I realized that, my identity is not a disadvantage, because we're often told that we should succeed despite our identity.
Yes.
But in fact, I've come to an understanding that we should succeed because of our identity, because in fact, so I read this psychologist, one of my favorite, her name is Dr. Caroline Leaf, and, a book called Think, Learn, Succeed. And she talks about we are all wired for success, right? So everything, even including our own cultural background, the way we were raised and all these things, they are all aligned. It's the universe, giving us all the tools that we need, even though we may not be aware of it at the time. But it all aligns to make us who we are uniquely and position us to be able to contribute to society in our own unique way. So for me, I think the turning point was really embracing my story. I used to be ashamed of my story. It used to give me great shame. And the turning around was understanding that, instead of focusing on me, I need to actually draw out what I can draw from my own lived experiences and realize that I can actually impact others. So even during the time when I was so-called illegal immigrant, I started going out performing poetry. Actually, in fact, the first place where I did my poetry performance was in Coventry. And now, the owner of, I think he calls it King's Coffee.
Yes, Changamire Coffee.
Changamire, right?
Yes.
I always say to him, I always remind him, he's the guy who gave me my first opportunity to ever speak to a live audience, and I always remind him of this. And it was a business conference.
Oh, yes, I remember.
Yes. It was a business conference.
Yes.
And I literally, and for me, I was just looking for a way because I was, living in fear and I was looking for a way to express myself.
Yes.
To just kind of find some level of freedom. And, poetry is something that I'd always been writing, like I said, from my childhood. Yeah. And I always found it very therapeutic. And it was, but I also then found that it also can help other people. So I reached out to him. He was, this was a business conference that, representatives of the government and movers and shakers in the Zimbabwe sector in business. And I wrote to him, I said, hey, I know it's a business conference. But can I come and actually contribute I'm a poet, but I think I can contribute to your theme in a creative way and bring something, useful insights, but in a different way, perhaps to the rest of the speakers. I didn't expect him to say yes, but he, to my surprise, he said yes, and that was my first experience. And I remember standing in front and reading one of my poems called Zimbabweans Are Singing Again, which is about how Zimbabweans can come together and despite all that is happening, we can actually incept a new reality and, and generate hope for ourselves. And after, doing that, I did, I think, 3 poems, and then I went and sat down. And this lady, Mama, tapped me on the shoulder and she said, Mwanangu, you reminded me of Martin Luther King, the way you presented. And now understand, someone like Martin Luther King has always been a hero, Mandela a hero, Kwame Nkrumah a hero, Sankara a hero. These are people who have mentored me without mentoring me in person. Yes. I always watch their videos on YouTube. I always, so I read their books, and I learn leadership from them, So this mama lady saying to me, you reminded me of someone like my hero, was to me both humbling, but it was that shot in the arm that showed me that there's a lot more potential to my work. That I can actually go out there and contribute in a meaningful way. So in a sense, it gave me a voice, And so, I started, even through that, when I was invited to the UN, to go and present one of my poems that, highlights child rights, I guess, highlights child abuse, but driving the advocacy aspect of that. Yeah. So.
Wow. So that's how you started then performing your
That's why I started performing poetry, going into storytelling, general activism, both highlighting circumstances in Zimbabwe, in the UK and globally, and I guess really found my voice. Coming from, I think my lived experiences disciplined me to shake off this mindset of a victim, but to say whatever our circumstances, there's something that we can do. We're not as powerless as we think.
Yeah, so there's so many nuggets in there, and you finding your voice and just being given that one opportunity that then triggered a ripple effect, which then led you to go on to great platforms all over the world. And that woman, she doesn't even know the power of her words.
No.
Just that encouragement that she gave you. Yeah. And that's, our words are so powerful. One of the ladies I was speaking to here this week just said to us, her words was, let's be kind to each other. Let's encourage each other. Let's build each other up. Because you don't know what someone is going through.
That's true.
And she didn't know that you were going through your legal battle for your papers. You were, she didn't know. No. But just those words then was the fuel that allowed you to then fly.
Our words are powerful. Our words are powerful. So we should always, I think, be intentional about operating in love. You know, love has become a dirty word.
Yes.
It's become a dirty word. And I don't use that word in a utopian sense at all. I use it really intentionally to say it's about, it's about our intended, both our impact as well as intentions. Because you might have good intentions. I mean, if people will say, oh, well, but I had good intentions. But then you also have to be mindful of the impact you're having through your words, through actions, right? Yeah. But that might, in some sense, be even more important than your intentions. Wow. So yeah, she probably doesn't remember that incident, but it changed my life.
It changed my life. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. That's wonderful. And we're going to have part 2 where we're going to talk more about the work that you do now, and what services you offer, and how to help people with dealing with uncertainty, career choices, because of all your wealth of experience, your life experience. So we're going to go into that after, but I just wanted to show anyone who's watching the 2 books. There's When the Soul Awakens and On the Barren Side of the Hill. These are mine. But if someone wants to purchase them, can they get them on Amazon, or how do they get them?
Before I answer that, can I just say, when waking up and facing you is the hardest thing for you to do. Yeah. And you shy away from dark clouds of doubt. You wish to do well, but wish is all you do. For the red flags inside of you rise higher than your resolve to solve the problems that hold you back. And slowly but surely, the sun on your dreams begins to set. Wow. And you know it, though you deny it yourself. The scene is set. The cards are dealt. You made your bed, you drawn your bets by not giving you the best of you. Dreams that bubbled inside of you like porridge on log fire, now ringing your joys. Panic alarms screaming with each day that goes by without you giving you the best of you. What is the meaning of life? Disconnected from your life purpose, or the value of a paycheck that pays for your unhappiness, pricing you away from the best of you, all the while alienated from your true authentic self by fear that ensures that your talents are as good to you as a bell to an ash pit that buries it, along with the borders of your childhood dreams, buried, silenced, diminished, forbidding you to be the best of you. Wow. Perhaps true success is not the thunderous beating of waves at sea, but the unassuming peeling back of eyes to see the real you in the mirror, knowing that it is neither the mirror that is cracked nor the world that is to blame, but it is you. It is you that has to hoist down the red flags inside of you to be the best of you, to be the real you. So that's a poem called The Best of You. And I actually wrote that poem the day I decided, I said to myself, I'm going to shake off the victim mentality and I'm going to take responsibility, to turn my life around. And the following day I took a UCAS application and applied, to go and study. And I started my journey of turning my life around, went to a university called Leeds Beckett, where despite having come from this background of not, going in the education system in the UK in a meaningful way, I actually wound up graduating as the highest in the department, winning a couple of Dean Special Awards, one for Best Independent Research and another one for Best Applied Global Politics. And then I got accepted at Oxford University to do my master's. So it just shows you through that poem, it really illustrates the journey of going from victimhood to realizing the empowerment, the potential that's already inside of us.
Wow,
it's just about realizing it and unlocking it.
Wow. Wow, we're not supposed to clap for poems, isn't it? We're supposed to do this.
Thank you. So, but once I have a poem, people can find my books on Amazon.
So, is it in this one?
So the one that
best of you.
The Best of You. I think The Best of You is in the second one.
In the second one, that's powerful. Yeah. That is powerful. Wow.
If it's because I've got a whole lot of body of poetry that actually still yet to be published. So.
Wow. So that's amazing. So they're on Amazon. Please get them. That's powerful. Because even if you recite that to yourself when you're having doubt, that will inspire you to move.
It's important for people to consume now, particularly now because we live in an era of massive information. What Dr. Caroline Lee, for what I mentioned, she mentions that the biggest challenge that we have now, particularly our generation, is, and I don't mean this in a demeaning way, is thinking has become a practice we take for granted. You actually have to be intentional about thinking. In fact, she says you have to actually section off time in it during the day where you say, you know what, I'm no TV, no, I'm just thinking. Yeah. So, but to do that, you have to have allowed the right content. The books, are you in the right conversations, right relationships? Surround you, immerse yourself in things that build you, right? As opposed to all this information about what's happening in the world and negativity and all, it doesn't help you. So we've got so much potential that we need to unlock, but we can unlock it through our minds, through our attitudes, and through disciplining ourselves.
Wow, that's powerful. I'm inspired. We could just keep talking. You're coaching me. I'm getting coached now. I'm getting coached, and we all need coaches. That's so powerful. I'm glad that we're going to talk again because there's so much more that we need to talk about. So discipline, listening to the right things, focusing your mind on thinking. And as you say that's just so true, that we don't even have time to think or to breathe because we've got information overload. Yeah. But the right information, and then pausing, thinking and reflecting. Powerful stuff. That's amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We've got part 2, so don't make sure you watch it because Coach Dumi's got so much to share, and it's amazing. And when we talk again, we're going to also show you where you can get to attend some of the workshops, some of the online workshops, some of the stuff that he's doing as Coach Dumi. So thank you so much, and thank you everyone for watching. Please please share this, and I hope you've been encouraged and inspired as much as I have been. This has been phenomenal. So from the menial floors to a master's at Oxford to 10 Downing Street. So
and any of us can do even better than that.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for watching. Be blessed. Thank you. That's it.